Hey guys, how's it going? It's weird, I've muted my desktop audio but it still seems to be coming through. Anyway, today we're going to do a little bit of automating tile set generation. As usual, I'm just going to take it slow, wait till somebody comes on the channel and then I'll sort of just get started. I really need to figure out how to get these sort of combined feeds on my stream. That's so weird. Like the multi-stream will show me like Twitch and then YouTube will show me YouTube, but they won't show me them combined. Okay, right, let's get started. I'll share my screen and just get into it. Cool. So what I'm doing is I am started a new game and I want to be able to make out maps, but obviously that's going to be like really tedious. Especially like if I try to do it like so for example, I'll show you like a mock map that I've got. So this would be an example, right? Like imagine I had to build out every single tile and like code that in the game. And like how am I going to remember like where the sand is? You know, like it's basically this is what IDEs are like game development studios like Unity, Game Maker, Unreal Tournament all kind of have done out of the box. But because I'm kind of building everything myself, there is no tile generator. So like if I was like, I'll just show you an example, right? Like in my game at the moment, I just want to show that I could actually tile, right? And so I'm reusing some stuff here. But like, oh no, if I play the game, I've just like tiled the whole demo level with grass, right? So this is still just a mega work in progress, right? But as you can see, like, how would I programmatically say, okay, top left is grass, middle is water, and things like that? That would be like really, really hard to remember. Like when Game Boy designers were using assembler, they had to write everything up on a wall and remember codes and things, 'cause you just couldn't save it anywhere in the code. You couldn't save like a map. Like here, all I'm doing is I'm saying like you just go through 800, and for every x, like starting from top left 00, just plaster a grass tile and just go all the way along to the right, then take another line and go along to the right again and just plaster every single row. But that's not really going to be sustainable. So what I want to do is I want to try and build a way for me to like literally create my own GUI and IDE for building up the levels and the maps, and then obviously I can then reuse that in other games, and then I might even have it as like an unlockable, so the player can create their own maps, right, and play their own levels. Eventually I'll have it so that they can like place enemies and set up scenes and things. So at the moment, what I've done is I've just basically I created. So at the moment there's just this map editor function. All it does right now is nothing really. I've created a basic, what we call a dictionary, an object, which is I'm just feeling out what it might look like. So I'd imagine like the way I would kind of mock this out, just keep an eye on the chat, make sure nothing's going on. But the way I'd kind of like mock this out is I would want to, I would want to like, that's kind of maybe, let's storyboard this, maybe let's storyboard this. This might be a bit easier. So we'll go 3,000, let's go 600. That'll do. Right, so to storyboard like the map editor, the first thing I want to do is I want to say, first of all, I want to, from the menu, I want to come to this sub menu. So we would start off at the menu. So we start off at the menu, and then from the menu we would have tile editor, right, option, which I've kind of got. And then from the tile editor, what I want them to do is I want to have them to get like a few options. So the first thing is like, I want them to be able to like load. So 28. So I want them to be able to load existing map, right? Don't like that color. Go for something that's a bit more brighter on the background. I don't know. We just go for green for now. So I'd either want them to like load the existing map, create a new one, right? And then if they assume, let's just assume they're going to create a new one to begin with. So I need to be able to like create it, like if they load it, it's going to be saved on the desktop. So you can imagine like this. This is just a base tile set, right? So you can imagine these tiles. I think there's this guy, just do another example. Oh, there's a water one. Should do a couple. So like these tiles would be saved somewhere as like a group of files. So these would be like these are files, and I would store these. I would store the pointers to these files in another file, which I might call level 1 dot it'll be probably a JSON file or a text file. So that's the way I would save the object first, right? So like these would exist as a JSON file, so that when I do import it, like when I should really use a proper drawing tool, but I can't be bothered at the moment. So like when I load it in, the JSON's loaded in. But when I create a new one, I need to create the whole JSON structure, right? So like I need to create something like, it will have maybe like a name. It's gonna have the size, tile size, and then the grid, right? The grid, which would be empty to begin with, right? And from that point, so this would be me creating the new one. So this is kind of what I've been playing with. So this is sort of game map here. I've already loaded, like, so I've got my images locally, right? So if I go to my game at the moment, just a working title called Steel Spirit. In my assets folder, I've got like a tile set. So I've got my different ones. I've got concrete, grass, water. You know, I just made these kind of quickly yesterday. And so, yeah, like I've got all my folders with like my different ones just now that I've made. Obviously, I'll add a lot more. And so I save like pointers to that. So I've loaded them. So this is a function that I've written myself, right? So like everything I've pretty much done myself. So this load image file, it uses the inbuilt load function, and I do it to allow me to load in bulk. I don't want to go in too much detail because I don't want to scare people away who haven't worked with this. But this is it. I just made this function that allows me to like just look at the file, and if I've got like lots of them, like instead of me having to say like sand 1, sand 2, sand 3, it will just bring them all in. And that's what this does here. So this grass tiles, this concrete tiles, they're actually a list of all of the images. And then everything gets added to this tile dictionary that I've just made. Again, so I've just made this. And I give it a name, grass, concrete, sand, and I pass in the array of images. Now, what these are doing here is these are loading the images into the array. And this convert true is a way to really save memory. Don't need to worry about it too much. But if I took it off, the game goes much slower, right? So I'll just show you for an example. If I take that off and play the game, again, it's not really a game. I barely even started. But look how slow it's moving, right? It's moving slow because the image hasn't been compressed. I mean, I don't know the full, like, dirty depths of the detail of like the compression algorithm, but there's a compression algorithm. So when I set that, that's how slow that goes. But now if I kind of load it up as not as converted, now the thing moves a lot more faster, which is a lot what I expect. That will be a big issue that I'll have in the future, like managing multiple layers and things and parallax. And probably I'm going to move over to Game Maker, but this is just a chance for me to like doing it in Pygame is a chance for me to like rapidly prototype and build my own editors, my own functions and things. I enjoy doing that, and also gives me more control. So we've got the game map, and then obviously we're going to add the tile dictionary to it. So what I want to do is I will want to get these things of them. So what do I need to know? I need to know what's the name, what you're going to call it. Well, first of all, I need to know, are you loading or creating a file? We'll start off with just creating a new one. Then it'll ask for the name, what are the tile dimensions, and then what I'm going to make it do is load up, like if there's 3,000, so if there's 3,000, if it's, say, well, it's just 2,000, if it's 2,000 in width, and the tiles are 100 in width, so if the map is, if I say the map's 2,000, and the tiles are 100, that's 20 tiles, right? Per row. So I'll need to work that out and automatically fill out a grid with a base tile, that empty one that I was pointing to there. So I'm going to just check, see if there's any questions. None so far, I don't think. But yeah, that's the angle I'm going with just now. Going to pop that on while I quickly check out Facebook to see if anybody has commented. Right, and then I'll jump back on. Okay, I'm gonna put the stream back on, and then I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna try and do this. So the first thing is I need to ask them, like, you know, so I'll need to ask create load, name, map size, tile size. So obviously to do this, like you can't just do like get input, because it has to be asked on the actual screen. So there's going to be a little bit of boring stuff I need to do here. So I think, how am I going to do this? Do I have a text input box maybe? That'll be cool. I think I do. So draw text input single line. There we go. Draw text input paragraph. So I'm going to check this function out. This one looks pretty good. So I think I've done it in other programs before. I just need to figure out how the hell it is that I actually make this work. This is a function I built before that allows me to use a function that I made. So I basically give it a little box and let the user type something in. So I think it's just going to be input and then draw text input single line. Let me look at some example code. So this is when you get into development, you know, you have to reuse stuff as much as you can. So I'm going to look into my assistant code, see if I can find. Right, so in utils, there you go, core input, there we go. So that's the function there. So what I'm going to do is in the map, so I don't have a core, I think it'll be in the GUI, I can't remember where I added the input to. Find out in the settings, I guess. User input. So I've not really assigned that to anything, which I probably should. So I'll assign it to the game item. Input equals user input object, assuming that's what it's going to be. So my map maker, so I'll call it game input game.input enter string. Gotta make sure, because I do process the input here, but I'm just it's GUI input user so GUI is the user get buttons, but that's just like the input value, not the actual function. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to carry on with this. So game input enter string XY. I'll just make some random ones for the moment just to see if it works. Let's take these optionals out. Just need to figure out what this is. Like what a core is a core game object, but I don't know what it's going to be used for in this context. So in this context, it's just GUI. Let's try that. It's definitely going to complain, and I'm sure like a lot of people there might be confused what I was doing, but essentially I'd made this like in any game, right, that you build, if you're not using somebody else's tools, even IDEs like Unity won't include this. Like if you want to get user input and display text, it's not simple as like in Python where you would just go like, you know, my value equals input and they just enter it in the terminal, because you've got to like display those characters, and you maybe display like you have to code up like how to do the flashing, like the flashing lines. If I got a terminal here, like see that's flashing, like, and then you need to like increment it along every letter that's pushed in. So you need to check for the letters, you need to display them, you need to work out what the spacing is. So like it just shows you like how much we rely on software. So I've done this all myself. So let's see if this works. So I'm basically reusing a function that does everything that I just said that I made for our games. So if I go to map editor, there we go, cool. So I push a button, nothing happens, because I think I've got to run the process game.process input, I guess. Give that a go. Map editor, nope. So game.input, so process input again, I'll show you just like, it's this guy up here, and what it's doing is it's basically cleaning the input to return stuff that I want. So it'll say like, if the input limit's not reached, let them put in an input, get there's it's a bit, it could be cleaner, to be fair, but basically like there's cases like if I hold the shift button, then it's going to change everything to uppercase, because again, the input function that's built in does not allow you to manage for uppercase. You have to capture if a function key's been held. I want to stop them if there's an input. I want to return a single value for the key, but then I also want to build up a string, which is like a list of sentences. So if you're like typing letters, you don't want to just keep returning every letter, you want to build up a string as well. So that's what this is doing. And so there's like, this is where, for the shift key, one changes to exclamation mark and so on and so forth. That's what I've kind of designed there. So yeah, input limit otherwise. So I could set the input limit if I want, but I don't really need to. I just need to make sure this works. So we go back to the map maker. So all I'm doing is I'm getting input and I'm processing the input so that it will let me type a letter. So when I push process and input, there's a line that I've written which says, listen for a letter to be pushed in. So now I can type all this in, right? I don't really need to type much in. Just need to type a few bits in, so that's fine. Don't really like the green color, so I will just change this. I shouldn't really mess about with it too much because it's like not really important, but I'll change the box color. And do we have a font color? Don't have a font color. Oh, interesting. Oh, we do. It's just called color. Fine. Again, like, because of my Amu digital assistant, like I was going with like the Matrix theme to begin with, and then I slowly changed things and added bits and bobs on and made it configurable. So when I very first started, I liked the green color. It's basically the color of the terminal. Not really Matrix, to be honest, but it's what will resonate with a lot of people, I guess. So I'm just reusing those functions that I've written, and I've reused them in like Lifted and all my other games as well. So box color, I want it to be a blue, so RGB. So I'll make it like 50 red, 50 green, and then for blue, make it 200. And then for the writing, we'll go for like a light blue. So we'll go for a 255, 255, 255. So that's blue. So we want to have blue to be quite light, and then bring that down to 80. 80. I don't know if that'll be a light blue, but whatever, we can test out. And that didn't work. Why didn't that work? Probably I'm not carrying my overrides. Let's have a look. So when I draw the single line, I guess I just need to manipulate it directly. That kind of sucks. I can do that, I suppose, but it's not great practice. So even though I've set it here, it's not really being overridden. So it's an if it's not equals none, and this field doesn't equal none. So, okay, that's fine. I can work with this. I think it's just because there's an and condition. I'm not sure why I did that, like why I insisted that they both need to be. Probably just laziness, because I didn't want to code up both sides of the logic. Yeah, that's better. Okay, that looks good. That's much better. So now what I can do is I can say for let's prompt the user to I wonder if this allows me to put in a question above it. I can't remember if I allowed for that. Chosen font limit. Nah, I didn't allow for it. So I just have to write some text here. That's fine. So I just need to write some text above here. And I want to say for the first one, be something like, give me the name of the file. I'll do the options later, but we're just going to assume it's creating it for now. So how am I going to best get text? Draw text, I think. It's a function that I made. So let's get the example of that. There we go. So GUI, I'll just do GUI.font, so it's just a standard font that I've made. And so the text, I'm going to call it name of map file. So the color, we'll keep it 255, 255. Just make it white. Or we can make it blue, I guess. See if that works. Perfect. So we want to put those all up. So we'll say the name of the map file, we want that to be 300, 400. And then, so we'll do this as clearly as a loop, so that we'll loop around the questions and then add them to the game map. So, how are we going to do this? Let me think. I need to check what think I need to return a value. Yeah, I do. So does process input return a value that lets me know when it's done? Let's have a look if it does. I'm pretty sure it should do. Return self-entered string. So if I press enter, it will return a string. Otherwise, what does it return? Because we need to know that's actually complete. Could be in a draw single line function. No. Let's print out what it's returning, so then we know. So I need to print out return value. So it's not returning anything. If I type stuff here, it does. If I pressed enter, not really getting anything there. So I need a way to trigger that if I press enter, something's actually going to happen. I could just modify this to here return false at the end and here return true. I'm not really using it anywhere else. I'm wondering if there was a better way that I did this, because the enter button must be doing something. So if the key is return key equals enter, which is fair. You just check for the return key. Okay, that's interesting. Otherwise, return key equals. Let's try that. That's probably not great, because if it somehow misses it, it's going to clear it out straight away again. But should I just mutate this? In the same way, it'd probably be missed here anyway. Okay, let's just do it that way. It makes it different as well. So I want to say print game.input dot returned key. Should be 0 until I push it. Yeah, there we go. So basically it's if game.input not really well coded. It was a while back. I could probably do a lot better now, or could have done a lot better then. I was probably just rushing. So then I just go like, pass, which would be the next question. So we get the list of questions. So I guess question list, name of map file. The next one will be map size. I'll say map width, map height, and then probably just say tile size. It should really just be an optional choice, but for now I'm just going to keep it easy for me. And so what we're going to do is say so I'm going to make the current, so say question cursor. So this is basically where in the question list I am. So it's going to start with 0. So instead of me writing this here, I'm going to write the name of the array, and then use the question cursor to access that one, and then I'll just shift along each time. So Okay. So this will keep going around each time. And I'll say if the game input is entered, so question cursor plus equals 1. Let's see if that lets me go through the questions. Nope. So if the returned key, question cursor plus 1, okay, because there's no state here, so it needs to be self question cursor. Because it's not, it's just resetting every time it goes back around. You need to actually remember, because you can't do a while loop here, simply because if you did, then the entire game would be stuck on this part until you answer, and it just wouldn't render. So the way you have to do it is you have to remember that your cursor, what your cursor value was. So it was at 0. So now this should work a bit better. Let's have a look. Let's try it out now. Actually, no, I need to. Okay, let's give this a try. Excellent. So when it does that, I should probably clear out the entered string as well for each new one. And then let me think. Thinking how I can most easiest, I mean, I could just do 1-to-1 at the end. So I could just say like this value. Yeah, I'll just do this for now. So obviously when you're designing, you can't spend ages making things exactly the way you want it to be. You just want to get the functionality out so that later on you can tweak it, right? So obviously later on I would make this so it maps more closely to this, so this name might have a name in here, so it maps directly to the dictionary, rather, because if I make a change here, then I have to remember the order. So height, tile size, and I'll make that 3, and then print the game map to show that it works. So I can only do this if all of these questions have been answered. So it would be something like if the self dot question cursor is equal to or greater than or equal to the length of the array. That basically means that you've got to the end of the array in the questions, so the question list. But because they start from 1, it'd be -1. So what it's saying is, if this number is equal to the size of this array, that means you've got through all the questions. So therefore, this should be this should now be able to be generated. Like, because if question list 3, yeah, that's a good point. So it wouldn't be question list, it'd be answer list. So I need to generate an answer list as well. So at the moment, the answer list, again, that would have to keep a state. So it's just an empty array. And so for every answer, I want to add to this. But the logic still remains mostly the same. So what would happen is, I would say the self.answerList.append. So I'm appending to the list whatever the thing I just said it was. So it would be appended here. So that whatever the string I was that ended it, that did that, and then it would go to the next one. So this would be the answer list, but the answer list would be the same size as the question list, which is why you still want to check that you've got through all of the questions. And once you do, you'll then have the answers ready. So for example, if the answer list was only length 2 and didn't get up to here, then this would give me a traceback error and fail. So this should work now. Let's give it a try. So if self.question, so it's self.cursor index, question cursor. So if the cursor value, which we keep incrementing for every question, if that's bigger than the question list, the length of the question list, then we've answered all the questions. So it doesn't like that I'm comparing what is clearly a number, and this should be the length, not because the question list is just an array, so I'm going to get the length of the array. That's why that didn't compile. Okay, so level 1, map width 2000, map height 3000. So it didn't like, so I completed that, but I think, oh, interesting, because it's greater equal than the size of the array. Let's try that, because it didn't get to the last question, so it must have fulfilled this and then failed at game map equals 0, so answer list is not defined, which is fair, because it should be self.answerList, because I had to make that a state that I could remember. But I still think that's a bit interesting that if it didn't, this might fail still. Yeah, because it's out of range. So let me just quickly go through this, because I'm starting at 0. The length of the question list, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's length 4. And this would start off at 0. So that would be 0, 1, 2, 3. So not quite sure why, unless I'm incrementing it too much. Let's try this. It should be fine. Just interested that the it's always a bit of subtlety the way arrays start. Yeah, so still give me the index out of range, which is fine. So page 20, line 26. Yeah, so something's, so the size of the cursor is, I see. What's happened is it's overflown the size, and it's failed in here. So if this and self.question cursor is less than this length of this, it should never be equal because it starts from 1. So let's try that. Still doesn't like it. I know what's happening here. It's just I'm trying to think of the nicest, most elegant way to sort this. Basically what's happening is this cursor's getting to this point, and then it should just finish, but I'm incrementing it by 1, so it's going to a position that doesn't exist, the next question, which fails. So what I think is, let me think, best way to do this. I know. So just say if is greater or equal to that. It should just be self.question. So the number should equal the length of that. So if this is 4, it should equal length of that minus 1. to get to the final index would be 0, 1, 2, 3. So if this is greater or equal to this, it should really just be if it's greater or equal to this minus 1. Not sure why that's not playing ball, but it's fine. So we should just say if so only run this if the cursor is less than the size of the whole thing. It's getting quite messy now, I know. So I should say if it's greater or equal, then that's fine. We should just make it like that. That should be okay. Oh, hey, sorry, I just realised we've got somebody else on the channel. Using a lot of camel case there, bro. Yeah, I am. I know. I'm terrible for that. It's just the easiest way for me to sort of recognise it. Mr. Elfman. Hey, Mr. Elfman. Thanks for joining on the channel. Sorry, I just saw you there. So yeah, just whatever you really want to talk about. I kind of just I'm coding up at the moment. A kind of a solution to build an automated tile editor. You know, I guess we could talk about the situation that's going on with Elon Musk. You know, he's kind of stepped down from the board. I don't know if that's something you guys are interested to talk about. He did a poll. It's quite silly of him. He came back from the World Cup and he said if enough people vote, you know, vote for him to stand down, then he will. So we'll find the tweet in question. So the guy's, well, don't tell me is he deleted his own profile? Oh, that would be funny if he has. No, he's still there. So basically, he put a poll, should I step down as the head of Twitter? I'll abide by the results of this poll, right? And he only gave himself 24 hours. You can actually set the time of the poll. And obviously people were going to say no. We're going to say yes for him to leave. It's quite an obvious one. So yeah, if we want to talk about that, then yeah, then that's cool. So yeah, I saw that. I was laughing last night. The guy's a bit of a clown. I don't have many passionate opinions about him. I kind of agree. Like, I think, like, I really used to have a lot of respect for the guy. I still appreciate like what he's done, but as personality wise, he's gone down the pan. I think he's kind of got a little bit. He's fallen in love with his own, you know, his own character. So I don't think that's like his attempt to, like, if I had bought Twitter, right? Like, if I invested 44 billion to buy Twitter. Like, I'd be very careful about the things that I say. I mean, the guy was like, there's him trying to like promote the World Cup because he knows that's going to get lots of views. So he's like saying stuff like, come check out the World Cup, um, highest ratings on Twitter and things like that. You can actually see him doing a bit of sales. I think it's a bit earlier. Let's see if we can find it. But yeah, he kind of like tries to. He realizes like ad revenue has gone down, right? So like Twitter has lost a lot of money because of the things that he's saying. Again, I'm not against people who love the guy. I think he's done some great things. But if I'd bought this company, I wouldn't be like saying stuff about Fauci. He suspended people and he's saying, oh, should I unsuspend them? He's attacking Fauci, which, to be honest, I agree with him. But that's not what you should be saying if you've just bought a social media platform. So this is him talking about somebody that chased his kid, apparently. Don't know if this is true, but he does say here, I'm going to be taking legal action against a guy who's like 20, like a 20-year-old boy who wrote an app to track his plane. And the guy even offered to hand it over if Elon Musk gave him a job, but Elon was just too stubborn. I think he's changed his mind on that again now because he's unblocked him. But yeah, I mean, like, there's some, like, he said he'd got rid of bots, which he hasn't, because I've got 5 bots running on Twitter, and I can't show them here because I don't want to give away their identities. But I've got 5 bots that are doing fine. But yeah, I mean, like, the guy's quite controversial, right? So I don't know if there's I don't know if I can find it. There he goes. He's like really stoking the fire of sort of lockdown and things. I'm not, like I say, my opinion is what it would be, but if I'm jumping onto social media, the last thing I'm going to be doing is trying to stir the pot if I'm claiming to unite the right and left. I just don't think that's the right way to go about it, Yeah, totally, 100% agree. He does seem to be acting a little bit like a kid, like he's saying that he's gonna like ban people, and then later he's like, oh no, shall I unban these people because he got a lot of hate mail. But yeah, so I mean, like, the guy, he's posted that, and now he's gonna have to deal with what he said. It's almost like saying something when you're drunk and regretting it the next day, because like, should I step down as the head of Twitter? Like, well, dude, why he, like, did he ask that thinking he would get like 90% people saying, no man, stay? And it's like, man, Twitter's full of assholes. So of course there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be like, haha, get lost. So I think he messed up on that, to be honest. Okay, right. Let me try and figure out what's going on here. So you see, this gets quite messy just for asking some questions. I've got a question list. It's of length 4. I've got a cursor which starts at 0. I increment the cursor every time they push enter. What I should do is I should just say questions complete or something like that. Questions complete, rather than just trying to check the size of it all the time. I think that might be the best way just to begin with. So what I want to do is I want to just say, like, if my cursor is greater or equal to the length of the question list -1, then I should just go self question complete equals true, and then only run this if the and self dot question complete equals false. So this shouldn't run if this is complete, and then in here I should say only run if self dot question complete equals, you don't really need to say it, you can just do that. So what's the problem here? So we should have a 0, 1, 2 and a 3, but every time it gets down to here, for some reason it feels like it's not filled out. So we need to think about why this isn't filling out. So the answer list should append 1, so it should append to 0 position, the first, the second, and the third. Once it gets to that point, it should work, but I know it's not working, so we need to figure out why. So it's got a list out of range for 44. So it's going into here. For some reason, it's saying, right, the cursor is greater than the length of the question list minus 1. So that should be, I'll just get a print len cell. I'll just get debug time. So that should at least have 3. Three. So interesting. So is the cursor is at 0.3? I see. Let's see if this works. I think I see, and this is what I meant about being very subtle. So at least we got to that point. Yeah, so that all worked actually. That was fine. So we printed off this array. The problem was in here, this draw text. I just put this in here. I'll explain what it is in a minute once this works. Right, cool, that works. Right, so no errors there. Basically what was happening was, like, it's going around, and then it was like once it had got to the final value, like the cursor number 3, it had to go to 4 in order for that to be saved to the answer list. So technically the cursor value needed to be 4, even though the maximum value is 3. It just needed to go to 4 to allow 3 to be filled. And this guy was failing was because once the cursor had gone to 4, there is no fourth, or which would be 5th element of this array, because again it starts from 0. So if I brought this into here, it all works fine. So now it's time to start commenting. So questions regarding map dimensions and sizes, and then now the sort of the game map gets associated with that. So I think that's done. I've got everything I need now. The next step is to start filling out all of the tiles with all of the values with a blank tile, which will then start to overwrite, and we can let the user adjust on the fly. So see what people are saying. I think we lost our Twitch guy. That's a shame. But yeah, so I think like generally with Elon Musk, I think probably he's kind of got himself in some trouble. Like there's some rumors that he was at the World Cup yesterday, some of the Saudi representatives there have some sort of sway in his business, and they've told him you need to wrap this up. So maybe he asked that knowing he was going to get told to stand down. We don't know. There's the argument that maybe he should leave Twitter and then focus on SpaceX and Tesla, which are, I guess, doing good things. Personally, I kind of feel like he should probably stay, just for like in terms of the rate of change. So like if he left, right, and then we got some other corporate guy like Jack, like that Jack, what's his name? Jack Dorsey, right? He if you look at him and like if you go and check him out, right, he tries to act like a hipster. Like if you look at the pictures, right, like he's got like his bio pictures like him with an ear piercing. So this one, like he looks like a fucking hipster coffee connoisseur, right? but like his actual Twitter poster. So if I go to Jack Dorsey, right? Don't know if it's still there. Yeah, look, like this is like trying to show. I think there was one like it was like that with him with like a ear piercing. Like he's a cool guy. He's one of us. He's just like you and me. But really, the guy is a billionaire and is completely detached from what was going on in his companies, just like Zuckerberg. So they're not going to do anything for the people. And you see, listen to him like, I'm doing this for COVID. I'm doing this for people. Oh, look at the game, right? But they don't reply to normal people, right? The guy is not like the guy like he's replying to celebs only, right? Another good, a classic is go and check Bill Gates, right? So if you check his out, or Bezos, they literally don't even they literally block replies because people would just shit on him. It's literally like it's just his sounding board, this advertisement board for whatever views that he's got, right? The guy's never replied to anyone, right? There's no replies. Same with Bezos, right? These people are just pieces of shit, right? Like they don't care about you or me, and the more that people buy into it, it's unbelievable. Like this, like how people like consider these as leaders of people is beyond me. So Jack's a little bit more like open than Bezos and Gates, but still the same. The reason I would give Musk a bit of time of day is because he's not from the same background as them. He's still a corporate shell in many ways, but either it's his ego or something else that's in play that causes him to interact with people all the time. Like the guy, he's responded to like at least 5. I think he's replied to me like 5 times. He's liked some of my pictures. I had a couple of jokes with him, and I also called him out, and I got him to delete some tweets because he was like lying about his Optimus bot being sentient, and I would use some of my bot analytics to show it was just basically being tweeted from him or one of his employees' accounts. So the guy interacts with people to his detriment or not, right? Like the guy's an idiot, but having him in charge kind of like opens the box to the rest of the world. So like whilst he's a clown where we can, attack him and make him change stuff. When he leaves and somebody else comes in that's like mega corporate, that's it. That's the end, right? Then you'll never know what's going on Twitter again. And that's why, for me, it's a bit of a mixed bag, that one. But yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it, to be honest. But billionaires are people too, though. Blame the masses. Yeah, they are. That's totally true. That's totally true. Like they are people, right? Like like I say, Elon Musk, he's replied to quite a few of my tweets. He's liked some of my tweets. I think even we had some jokes, and it's funny because like I got like millions of replies and notifications when he replied to me, and it like made newspapers and things. So I give him that. At least he kind of talks to the people. Whereas again, if we get some corporate employee number 5. It's unlikely we're going to get that level of engagement. So that's kind of how I see it. But you're right. I shouldn't like attack people just because they're like billionaires. That wouldn't be right. It make us feel good though. Right. Okay. So this is the map object, right, which is generated. So now we want to actually generate the value. So I'm going to say, so I know the number of. So the number of rows, so the number of columns we could imagine, right? So like tiles in a column is equal to whatever the map size, so the map width divided by tile width, right? So what I need to do is, assuming I'm not going to do input checking and stuff just now, but this is going to be to int, right? So I'm going to take this value and make it an int, and I'm going to make this value an int as well. It's risky, right? Because obviously I'll get a traceback error if I don't put in the right value. But for now, it's only me that's using it, so I'm not going to error check myself, because it's debugging and all that. So we know the number of columns is going to be the width and the title divided by the tile width, and then I'm assuming the tile width and height are going to be the same, so it's going to be tile size, and then number of rows is going to be the map height divided by the tile size. So what that would be is I'm going to process that now, so it'll be we'll just put it in just for now, we can add it in later. So we can just say width, or we can just say calls equals game map width. So the width is this answer 1, which would be whatever that is there, divided by what will be the tile dimensions. And this would be the rows. So what we could just do is we could just do that, right? So we can just like put them in that. So now we can just add the value directly. And yeah, so that would be it, right? So like the number of rows and the number of columns would be there. And so then what I would do is after that, I just print the game map to make sure that works. So level 1, map width, we'll say 2000, map height, we'll say 3000, tile size 100. So that looks fine. We'll make it an int, so because we're not going to allow decimal places on this or anything, because they're just whole numbers of tiles, they're not part numbers of tiles. So now what I'm going to do is generate the data structure which would hold all of the tiles. This is like the biggest thing done. So this part's the hardest part, this part's the most annoying part. Now comes the technically the hardest part, which is I need to generate some sort of structure. So it's obviously going to be appended to here, to the game map, but what's that going to look like? So I'd kind of initially envisioned it as like we could just say like a giant list. So it could be like it could just be like map tiles, right? And it could be a list, and in that list I could have just for each row I would just have the list, like a number of like a list of lists, right? So this would be row 1, and there would be like whatever. So this would be row 1, and then I could have like a list of dicks for each row. Sorry, it's probably the best way to do it, right? Because then you just iterate for each one and get the thing for that dict. And so you would know, like, the shape of the rows is always going to be the same, and the shape of the columns is going to be the same. And then inside here you just have like the detail, which would be like whatever, like the location. So there'll be like, to be honest, don't even need to have the location, because we've got the this object here where I've kind of mentioned, like, is it grass, is it concrete? But the problem is this doesn't specify specifically which tile. So I'm going to take this as a reference and start. I need to, again, design is required here, so I need to do a little bit of thinking of what this is going to look like. So I know that I could reference this when loading it up, but how do I maybe it could be the key and then the number index of that. That might be the way to go. So we'll jump back and see if there's any comments. Yeah, I'm just taking a break just to go through some of my socials before I jump back on and do some more dev. But yeah, so we're at the final part. We've asked the questions. Now we need to generate what that tile structure is going to look like, and then I'm going to actually build a GUI to let the user select it. So let's think how I'm going to do that. So go back to share screen again. So what I'd like is I'd like something like where I would have, you know, so like I'd have like this guy, and you would just have like all of these tiles here, and then when you select it, like when you click on it, so like the whole thing would just be this, like, you know, just stamp them all. Just to get the idea, right? So this would be like the whole screen would be default with these blank template tiles, where if you don't click on them, nothing will be placed there. And then what I want is I want it to be that you kind of like your grid will start off like this. This would be like the map designer, and then probably, yeah, I'm probably gonna add another tile here. So like gonna change this color to green, so like if it's hovered over, so that's about right. So I need to readjust my data structure. So here, instead of doing this, I'll need to do, because there's more than one file, so I need to load a thing called base 100. Just double check that I have multiple now. So I should have base 101. Ah, I see what's done. Okay, so let me think how I'm going to do this. Yeah, that's not a good naming. So just for my code which enumerates, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this base 100 hyphen 1, base 100 hyphen 2. That's better. So I can separate it out. So in here it would be just base 101, and then in here to tell it where it's going, it's going to be in the temp tile sets and the templates. That should be fine. So it's going to load all of the images that are in the templates folder that starts with this value, and then it'll increment through them. So I no longer need to make this an array because it's already an array. Okay, cool. So this is how it's going to kind of look, and then it will light up green for the one that you select, and then at that point you will pick, it'll give you like a drop down list of the tiles, and then you just click the one, and then I'll maybe do like a right left to begin with, and then you just click the one, and then that will be it. That will go in, and then it'll fill them. You'll fill them all in, and then save it when you're ready. So that's the idea. But now I need to think about the data structure, which is probably the hardest part, right? Because like, how is it going to save? Like, at the moment, the way it's reading the map is it's not even reading the map. It's just taking a single file. What I'd want it to do is I'd want it to go through each one of these and get like load the image, and then move along in the list until, so I'd like go for each element in this here, and then for each element within each element, so so you can say for each row I'd go for each row, and then for each row I'd go for each element, and each element I would draw that value to the screen, and then I'd go to the next one. So I think that's how the map tile should look. The question is, how am I going to generate that? And I kind of think now, I've kind of got an idea of how it's going to look. I think it's going to look just like this. It's going to look exactly like that, and then the first one is going to be the let me think. Should it even be a dictionary? I don't even think it needs to be a dictionary. It just needs to be the image to begin with. The question is though, do I want to have additional metadata for each image? And my thinking is no, because I can do metadata based upon layers and things and just create another one. So I think it's going to be an image or empty. So yeah, and then I think when I process it, I'll just say, is this got a value? If it does, load that image. If not, don't skip it. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to go and not even use dictionaries. I'm just going to use the values, the specific tile set. So it would be like something like this 0, this 0. So I think that's what I'm going to do. So now I know the number of rows. Let's go and build it up. So I will build this up and say, so it's going to be map tiles. So I'm going to say for calls. So I'll say we go by rows. So we go for row in this. So let me just double check if you could do that in Python, because that will be a number. So I'll just say for row in 10 print row. Will it guess to do it as a number? And that one. Okay. So it'll need to be for r in range. That's how we do it. So I'm going to say for each row within this range, so it's going to do, and then for each column in range of the so it'll be for, let me think, I'm going to do this. Yeah, so we can just do for the number of columns. We're going to fill it up to begin with. So we're going to start off and say the map tiles is just an empty list. And then what we're going to say is, so for this, you need to add, just thinking about the best way to do this is, yes, I know what we're going to do. So we're going to, for the columns, we're going to create row. So we're going to create a current row, which will just be an empty thing. And we're going to append to the current row the value for the GUI.tiles I can see a flaw in my plan already, but let's just do this first because this is kind of going just for now. So I'm going to go for the base. I'm going to do 0. So that should add that, and then once that's finished, we just go to map tiles dot append current row, and that's done. So why I know this is not going to be exactly how I want is because it needs to know what tile it is in order to apply animations. So for the future I might want to do animated tiles so that like I could actually make it a moving background or a background one of the things I'm going to do is like trick, you know, in a limited space to make it look like I'm moving through hyperspace. So I'll have tiles which will have stars moving in the background on them. So I want to do that. And then also in the case of like it being a blank one, if my cursor hovers over it, it should change to the next tile. And so I need to add metadata. So I do need to do the dictionary for each row, but that's fine because what we're going to do is just do this first because I can easily modify that. I'm going to say the game map tiles equals map tiles, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just print the game map. I'm going to take some spaces. so that I can see it in action. So level 1, 2000, just do 2000 as well, tile size 100. Okay, cool, so those are all the surfaces filled up. So that's fine, that's exactly what we would expect. Like these, because these are loaded, they're not the path to the image, it's the actual image loaded as a Pygame object. So this looks good. This looks great. Now I just need to update that to add the dictionary component, and I'm very, very close. Let's see if we've got any comments. Hey, so hey Granite V. I don't know if you're still there. I think people jump in and then I don't go back until somebody's left. But yeah, we're talking about basically tech and game dev, so feel free to introduce yourself and ask a question. Yeah, I know it's no comments. No worries. Thanks for watching. Yeah, catch up on LinkedIn. I appreciate you. I appreciate you watching, dude. That was really good. Yeah, sometimes that's the thing, you know, trying to get people to watch these chats can be quite hard. I'm still here. Yeah, I mean, whatever you like. I mean, you know, you can watch here, watch on YouTube. That'll be great. I mean, I'm still just starting this channel, but basically, I'll give you an update of what I've been doing. So I've got this game that I've just started making, and I've kind of taken some stuff from a previous game. And so what I want to do is build, like, so the game at the moment is like really basic, right? There's not much going on, right? I can fire, I think I can fire, and I can turn, and I can do that. But obviously building those maps, like if I was to like programmatically build out like a map, it'd be really, really hard and really quite complex, because you would need to like remember where each tile is and write it down, and it would be, your code could get really, really big and hard to maintain. Now there are like game engines like Game Maker that has something like this built in. Unity is the same, and same with Unreal, but you know, for this purposes I'm building my own one. And yeah, so this is how it's working so far. So I basically ask the question from the user, like what the, you know, what's the name of the file, what's the width, what's the height, and what's the tile size. Because what happens is we're going to get them to basically fill in some questions that eventually, you know, we can load either from the file or create a new file, which will be a pointer to all of the tiles, which they can then place and, you know, be able to create their own maps, and also allow me to create the maps for the game. So that's my idea. So how come you're building my own one? Yeah, that's a good question. Really, because there's a few reasons. Like in Pygame, I'll show you an example in Pygame. Sorry, in Game Maker. So I've built a few games before, and in Python, I enjoy coding much more in Python. I'm a lot faster in Python, and in Game Maker, debugging's really slow. I'll show you a game that I made in Game Maker. And it's quite complex, and the game's not even finished, right? So there's a lot of stuff going on here. And let's run the game, and I'll just show you it playing. And then I'll show you what the map looks like in here. So this game is similar to the other one I just showed you. I've got quite a lot of different games, but this one is a game I made about a couple of years ago. It kind of looks a bit more tacky now, to be honest. Like now I look at it, I'm like, yeah, I could have made it much better. But this is like the first proper game that I made. So I've got different modes. I've got a shoot 'em up mode and then a free roam mode. So the shoot 'em up mode is kind of like very typical shoot 'em up that you'd expect. So yeah, I mean, you can like, I kind of got my cheat debugger here, right? So like I can just pick, I kill myself already, so I'll pick better weapons. So yeah, I can like, I think, I try and remember there's a shield button somewhere. Yeah, there we go. So I've got a shield. Obviously, in the game, you wouldn't be able to just select them. I think maybe you could later, like you can buy power ups and things, but I never really finished this. And then, you can kind of just step through them. And then I think I've got a laser one, and I've got like a really crazy laser. So I think this one's a crazy one. And I think if I keep pushing it, I was gonna say, I think I've got another laser. Oh, that's right. I step it through there, and then I've got a really crazy one like this one. Oh, and it killed me. I'll show you the crazy laser just before I go. It took me a while to remember these buttons. So this is the crazy laser. I'll show you. It's like unstoppable. Just like destroys everything. But yeah, this was like a game that I'd kind of been planning for a while, 2 years ago, and it works fine. So you can imagine like doing that map must have been. Oh, there's another game running, so I'll just stop it. So that was the shmup mode. Then I've got another mode as well, which I'll show you. Oh, thanks, man. I really appreciate that. Watching the game gives me. I was going for a 90s vibe, definitely. Yeah, thanks. I really appreciate that. So the free roam mode is like the game I'm building now. So this is kind of like it's like you start off in like a VR test, right? And then same idea as the other one, like same like power ups, I guess maybe, but you've got like Astro. I died straight away. Yeah, it's sad like when you can't even like if you've ever wondered like are game developers like really amazing at the games that they build, and it's like no, we're not. We're probably worse because we spend more time building it than actually playing it. But yeah, this is kind of like how the game would play. You destroy stuff, get power ups and things, but like doing this map, I had to like manually do everything. Oh, that guy's like an ally, so this is a big thing that I'm going to build in the games where like you are going to have like teams and things. But yeah, like doing that map was really challenging, even with an editor. I'll show you what it looks like. You've got a thing called rooms, and this is why I didn't like it. So I've got like this free roam room, and like it doesn't like it was so hard for me to understand and to like place things and like make it work with the code. So like in Python, it's a lot easier for me to just build that out myself. And that's what I want to do. Like I want to just build out my own one. It's a genre of 2D you like creating. Have I ever tried first person or 3D? Do you know what? I haven't done first person or 3D, but I know how to do it. So like I would know how to build it from scratch. It would have its own challenges. Like instead of using areas, you use a lot of mesh and you need a lot of tools. So you rely, like 3D, the difference is like 2D games, you can code most of it yourself. But in 3D games, you kind of need to use like Unity or Unreal. Because if you don't, then you'll be spending even more time building your own engine. Whereas me building my own engine in a 2D game is not that bad. And it's quite fun, and also gives me a lot of control. At most, it'll take me like to finish this map editor like maybe another hour. It's only taking me longer because I'm talking, but yeah, I think like the 3D games are fun. Let me see if I can find a guy that there's a brilliant one. Like he does do his own engine. So let me see if I can find it. Now I would need to go through the home menu, but he's like, I don't know if he pops up here, if I know him just by looking at him. Nah, unfortunately I can't find the guy, but there are people that have built their own 3D engines, and that's really cool. Just me, I prefer to kind of build out a 2D one. But yeah, I mean, I still will end up using Game Maker in the end, because Game Maker lets me package this up nicely. But to rapidly prototype, I just enjoy using Python a lot. Game Maker's code is a lot like Python. It's just the IDE makes it really hard to debug things. So yeah, that's kind of where I am. Like, I've got other games. Maybe I could show you some other games as well. But what I've done at the moment is like I want to create this this map tile thing. So now let's try and run it. Let's see if I can get this to. So I've got this map tile. So I guess once it's finished, I can just add it here, and then just say self dot game map equals game map. So I'm going to add it here, self dot game map. What I want to do now is I just want to see if it actually works. I put none because there's nothing there. Then I'm going to say for here, if the questions are complete and self.gameMap equals none, and I'm going to say in here, if self.gameMap not equal to none. Now we're going to go and try and actually draw them to the screen. So in this example, all I did was I got the camera. I think have I set the camera yet? I've not set the camera. That's gonna suck. I think, is it set? Need to think. Draw map. I need to think about this carefully. So in here, right, I've not set the map stuff, so I'll need to set the map stuff to make it work, and the camera stuff. But I think it might still be doable. Map X, map Y. I don't even think I use that. Oh, I do use it. I use it to clamp it. Okay, let's try and see if it works anyway. I can try it without the camera as well if I need to. But it's just a new genre of 2D. You like creating ever tried first person? Well, I'm a brand new to coding and programming. I'm also using Unity and Visual Studio Community. But the question is, if you're interested in doing collabs in the future, perhaps. No, I'm totally interested in doing collabs, dude. I mentor a lot of people. Like, I help people in coding. I help devs in game development. Yeah, I'm always up for, like, even if it's just like helping out or, you know, doing a joint project, for sure. What kind of game are you thinking of doing? So what I'm going to do here while I wait for your answer is I'm going to go and figure out how to go through this. So I've got my game map, which I've added. So I'm going to say so I'm going to call it the map tiles equals game self.game map. So I'm going to access the map tiles that I created value. And so now I'll go for each for R in, so this is going to be a list of, so I'm going to go for each one for R in map tiles. So this is for the row in each map tiles. And then I'm going to say for C in, so this is going to go for each one for C in R. So I'm going to go for row, and for column in row. And now what I need to do is I want to draw this and move it along. Draw image GUI.screen, and then it's going to be C. I think it's going to be draw the C value, and then it's going to be X and Y. X, Y. And then X will be plus equals the C dot get image. So there must be a get image width. I don't know if I've used it here. Probably used it in here. So yeah, just get width. Okay, that's fine. So this is how I move it. So basically, I'm going like through column by column and row by row and drawing the image. So the next text value will be add that, and for the Y value, again, increment get height. So let's try that. It's probably not going to work, but we can give it a try to begin with. So level 1, map width 2000, 2000, 100. Okay, good. That actually worked. It started at least. And so when I go to the next one, I just need x to equal 0. So level 1. Obviously I want to do this, so I don't need to write it in all the time, but you get the idea. Perfect. So now obviously I can't really scroll this, right? Like I can't move. So I haven't like embedded that in, but that's fine. I'm quite happy with the way that works just now. So that's quite good. So I'd love to tell you more about my idea, but I want to protect it from the public. So if you give me this, yeah, totally. I'll pop it in here. Like, I don't remember my Discord off by heart. Let me check Discord. I've no idea how I share my Discord. But yeah, totally add me. I'm really glad that you watched. Let me find it. Again, I think that's it there. I think that's me there. Cool. There you go. Yeah, totally interested. Game dev, my advice is like game dev will take you time. What I strongly advise is like you decide what you want to do, right? So like if you want to do a 3D game, you need to have a dream. Like you really need to have a dream, like be really passionate about what you want to do. So like if I show you my Twitter, right, like one of the games that I was quite passionate about that I built is this game called Lifted. So it's like maybe I've got do I have any tutorials of it? I'll show you here. But like I thought about it so much and then I built it, right? So let me see if I can find some Lifted tutorial videos. Let's check this one out. So yeah, this is it. Like it's a game where like you basically buy and sell drugs, and you've got like you talk to people through the mobile phone, and there's like widgets, and you get given jobs. Think of it a bit like drug wars, and it gets more and more like progressively, the game gets more and more progressively complex. Starts off simple. You start meeting more people, dating people, cheating. You can join jobs. You can be good and bad depending on what you want to do, and so I think this guy's basically got you buying and selling contraband, things like that. And then have I got another one to show? Yeah, this one is like you're peddling, like you're picking up a parcel and things, and then you deliver to people like through Amazon or whatever, and then you try to like sell them drugs on the fly. So like let's see. Yeah, so it's like you're logging into like the company laptop, right? And so you're basically, you're doing like really dodgy stuff. And so I really enjoyed coding this up. And, I got a lot of people interested, like a lot of attention on this game. I haven't finished it yet, but I'll release it at some point. But the thing I wanted to tell you about, like, is like to build these games, you need to be really passionate. Like, you need to be like, cause learning to code is you're learning to do everything, right? Like you're learning to draw, you're probably learning to do some music, you need to design your game. So you need to be thinking about it all the time. If you're only just kind of like a little bit interested, it'll be quite hard. It will take much longer because you need to. It's like I don't play guitar, but my friends have told me like when they learned guitar or piano, like they just were doing it every day when they were a kid. And now I've got a job, I'm not a kid, whatever, so I need to just do it in all of my spare time. But yeah, that's what I would say. So basically, I think I kind of finished like the tutorial, like or the code base. Like now I've produced a whole map. I've got the questions generated, the image, like the data structure. So and then shown that I can like write that data structure to the screen. So the next steps, what I would do is I would amend the data structure so that I would be appending like a dictionary item here. So it would be like the data plus like animation flag and maybe to say if it was a base tile or not. So yeah, I'm gonna wrap it up there because I think that's been a long stream. But right, okay, yeah. So if you're like a businessman, you understand what it takes, what like to invest into a product and how much like blood, sweat, and tears needs to make that happen. But yeah, definitely really happy, that you added me. Please follow me on Twitch if you can. That will give me a total of two followers. But I'm enjoying doing this. It's fun, and yeah, it's all about dedication. We can chat. If anything, I can at least help point you in the right directions and help get you started. um but yeah I'll do that as soon as I wrap up here. But yeah, thanks very much for watching, and